Hey, how's it going out there? This is Texas Talk 1846, and today I wanted to talk about guns, and more specifically, I wanted to focus on the first-time gun buyer. Um, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube, um, and these guys and girls are doing reviews on, handguns of different makes and models. But there really isn't anything out there that kind of discusses some of the factors into buying a handgun. And for me, um, these are my three handguns that I have, and I do plan to buy more. But in buying them, I've kind of gained some experience and some knowledge, and I want to pass that along. Um, Let me go ahead and safety check them all real quick. None of them are loaded. Um, no rounds in the Beretta, in the Walther, no rounds. And in my new handgun, Rock Island, yeah, that's not gonna. No rounds in that one either. Um, and so we have three different calibers right here. We have a 40 caliber is the Beretta PX4 Storm, the Walther PPKS is a 380 caliber, and the Rock Island 1911 Compact is a 45 ACP. And when I was looking around to buy the first handgun, I did research, websites, YouTube videos, relatives and friends, and asked them, what would be a good handgun and what caliber and all that. And you know, a lot of them said, well, the 40 caliber is a good one, and they're all good. Glock, Beretta, Smith and Wesson, Sig, um, Springfield Armory, you know, they're all good. It's just, it's going to be about how it feels in your hand. It's going to be about the look, you know, and the features that it has. And for me, being a left-handed shooter, I'm kind of limited. A lot of the handguns now they're starting to become more friendly to the left-handed shooter, but before, they really weren't. Beretta has always had a safety that's ambidextrous, and on this particular one, it also has the mag release where you can move it to either side. And that was one of the factors of me buying this one. And plus, I like the look of it, and I've always liked Beretta. And so far, it's been a good one. I like it. Um, and these other two, they're not made for left-handed shooters, or they're made for right-handed. But you're just gonna have to sacrifice on certain things. I wanted these two. I've always liked, the Walther PPK-S, James Bond, and it's a sexy gun. And a 1911, who doesn't want a 1911? Rock Island Armory makes a very inexpensive 1911, and I went ahead and I bought this one. And I do plan to buy, probably get a Springfield Armory mil-spec one, or maybe even a Colt government model. That's the kind that I like. I like it simple. I don't need all the fancy stuff on it. The fancy trigger, the fancy hammer. All that stuff. I don't need all that. I just want it plain. If the guys that were out there in World War, One and Two, and Korea and Vietnam, if they used this and it did them well, why wouldn't it do me well? And that's how I see it. You just keep it simple, and that's it. There's no need for all the, dog and pony show type stuff. I just don't need that. But if you are a first time buyer, you really need to consider those things. If you're a left-handed shooter, you might need to focus on those guns that have features for the left-handed shooter. I know that Smith and Wesson, the M&P, comes with the slide release on both sides, and that's only one of the few that actually have that. Um, a lot of them now are going to where you can change the mag release button to either side, and the safety as well, where there's the safeties on both sides. So that's something that you have to look at. And the other thing that you really have to look at is not so much the price of the gun, because those are going to vary depending on the models. I mean, you can go with a cheaper end like Taurus and Rossi, you know, and you can work your way up. But I mean, you're going to be looking at, $300 to $600 depending on what you want, or depending on the manufacturer. But for the first timer who isn't out there to become a professional shooter and to compete, just wants to go out there to the range and shoot a little bit and, just kind of get some experience with a handgun, my advice would be to get a gun that is in the 9mm caliber. And a lot of people might say, oh, that's bull, if you're trying to take somebody down. It's not about any of that. The main thing is that if you're trying to get into something like this, if you're, in handguns, they're expensive. And so is the ammo. This isn't a cheap endeavor. This isn't like getting a Daisy BB gun and getting 500 rounds, BBs, at hardly anything, This is something far more expensive. The rounds are expensive. The rounds for 40 caliber, since everybody's buying 40 caliber, it's like the rounds are expensive, and then 380 and then 45. Last year was the 100th anniversary of the 1911, of the Browning 1911, and so everybody wanted to buy that, and they're still trying to buy that, just like me. But the rounds are expensive, just say roughly you're looking at $20 for 50 rounds, and over here you're looking, just a few dollars less, and the same for this one. But when you get a 9mm, you can get 100 rounds for like 12, 13 bucks. I mean, you can get 200 rounds to what it might cost to get 100, to get that 100 rounds of this in the 45 or even in the 40. So when you're looking at cost, the 9mm is cheaper to start off with, and then as you progress and you get the itch, and you just, oh man, I got to go buy another one, and then by then you'll be able to see and you can gauge it better on how much money you're going to be spending. I mean, because there's a lot of other things, there's holsters, there's extra mags, the 45, the Rock Island only came with the one mag. You had to go and buy some more. The Beretta comes with 2 mags, and the Walther comes with 2 mags. So, you're going to have to buy, there's other things that you're going to have to buy also, if you want to. You don't have to. And the other thing is, these two, this Walther PPKS is a 7-round mag, and one in the chamber giving you 8, but that's a 7-round mag. The Rock Island is also a 7-round mag because it's a compact, plus 1 gives you 8. The Beretta, this particular one, is a 14-round mag, plus 1 gives you 15. And that's where you kind of look at it. The high capacity mags, especially like in the 40, I mean, you're going to go through rounds fast. So if I could have gone back, if I could go back in time and, not buy this one, I would have gone with probably the Smith & Wesson M&P in the 9mm, because of the features that it has, for one, and plus it's 9mm and it's cheaper. And that's just something. And also with the magazines, I really don't care about the 14 rounds. I mean, if these have 7, I wouldn't mind having a 10 round for this one. I mean, because how many rounds do you really need? I mean, you go to the range to practice so you can become good at shooting, so you can hit the target. And if ever something happens and you need to use it at the house or whatever, at least you'll be, you're confident enough where you're going to be able to, do what you have to with only a couple of rounds. There's no reason to fill a body up with, 14 rounds, 15 rounds. You don't need that many. I was in the military, and you know, shooting the M16A2, you know, you just don't go out there and just try to unload the clip, you know. It's a one shot, you know, type of thing, you know. It's conserve your ammo. There's no reason to waste it. And that's the other thing, you know, these high capacity round magazines, you know, you're gonna go through them fast. You're gonna, you know, geez, say you got 3 of these, you know, 14 rounds, and they even go up to 17 rounds. I mean, that's a lot of ammo, and you can shoot that in a matter of minutes, you know. And the cost is where you start looking at it. And these over here that are less, you know, 7-round mags, you know, you're gonna kind of take your time, you know, because it's, man, you really can go through that fast. It's half. And so that's just one of the things that I wanted to put out on this video, you know, just for the first time gun buyer. You know, you really got to look at that stuff, you know, the cost of the ammunition. And I'm not knocking any of these guns here, you know, or these calibers, you know, because I own them. But if I could have gone back and redone it, I probably wouldn't have jumped in so fast, you know. I mean, it was an impulse buy to buy this, the Beretta, you know, and that's just how I went. But if I could go back, I would definitely go with the 9 in the beginning. And eventually, you know, I would still get the 45. I mean, I just, the 1911 is an awesome looking gun. And the Walther is this, you know, I mean, this gun is something that, you know, if you have small hands, you know, maybe if you're a small person, uh, you know, for me, my wife, she can shoot this, you know. It's hard for her to shoot this because she is small. And this one is like perfect size and it's very accurate. But you know, those are just some of the things that you got to look at. Look at the features. You know, if you're left-handed, really look at the features. Try to find the ones that are on the right side of the gun. I mean, you can make do with having to, you know, put your hand over or, you know, doing those type of things. You know, it's no big deal. But, you know, I mean, if you're going to go and buy your first one, you know, why do that when there's some of the gun makers that actually make them for left-handed shooters. And you know, just look at the cost of the ammo. 9mm is far cheaper than any of these three. And you know, after that, you know, then you can work your way up. There's nothing wrong with a 9. You know, I mean, for the longest time in the United States, it was always the 45. And then was somewhere in the 80s, you know, NATO went to the 9, and then they started doing the 9 here. You know, the military one with that Beretta, and it was 9mm for a long time. And then now it's everyone's going into the 40 cal, which is the middle bullet between 9mm and 45. And you know, that's just how that goes. But I hope this is informative. You know, it might be a little, you know, not real specific or anything. You know, I'm not an expert. You know, this is just my views as a consumer and someone who lives off of a budget, and you know, who wants to exercise their Second Amendment rights, you know, and owning firearms and being able to go shoot them. And you know, but you got to be smart with it. You know, you can't go out there and, you know, try to go get a Desert Eagle, you know, 50 cal or something like that. You know, I mean, you got to be smart. I mean, the revolvers, you know, are less when it comes to how many rounds. You know, normally it's just 6 rounds that go in the revolvers. And also, you can also look into the 22 caliber. You know, many of the manufacturers make a handgun in 22. They even make a 1911 in 22, and those rounds are very inexpensive. So there's also other things. You know, you can go with the semi-automatic or you can go with a revolver. Um, and those, you know, 357, 38 special. Um, you know, that's what you're going to be looking at in those. You know, 44 caliber, or the 22. You know, there's nothing wrong with the 22. It's a good starter. You know, yeah, kids can shoot it. So, you know, just look at that stuff when it comes to wanting to get into being a gun owner. Cost is going to be the key, and cost effectiveness is going to be the key. So hopefully this helps, and Take care.